The genocide scholars made an announcement that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Netanyahu doesn't like this, of course, but this is not something that I believe can be erased. This is going to go down in history, folks. Check it out. And a number of news outlets reported this. Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. The world's top scholars on the crime say. The International Association of Genocide Scholars resolution backed by 86% of members who voted. So this is a big deal. Check this out. Out of the International Association of Genocide Scholars, 500 members, 28% took part in the vote. Of those who voted, 86% supported the resolution. The resolution states that Israel's policies and actions in Gaza meet the legal definition of genocide in Article 2 of the United Nations Convention for the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, 1948. Ladies and gentlemen, notice what they are saying here: policies and actions. So it's not just Israel's actions, it's also their policies. This is very damning. This is very important. I tweeted this out over the weekend and I said, tag every politician or tag your representative who is still refusing to call it a genocide. And that's Republicans and Democrats. That includes Bernie Sanders too. Because I'm really waiting to see the next interview that Bernie Sanders has. If he's asked this question again, whether or not it's a genocide, I'm waiting to see if he's probably going to say no. And if he says no, if the person who is interviewing him pushes back and says, well, the genocide scholars just ruled that it is. So pay attention, folks. Again, it should be 100% of the vote, but still, that's a big deal. It is a 3-page resolution. It was passed by the body, calls on Israel to immediately cease all acts that constitute genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity against Palestinians in Gaza. Now, this includes deliberate attacks against and killing of civilians, including children, starvation, deprivation of humanitarian aid, water, fuel, and other items essential to the survival of the population, sexual and reproductive violence, and forced displacement of the population. You know why this is really damning? Because all this time that Israel said, well, Hamas committed sexual violence on October 7th, now you have it in writing that the genocide scholars are acknowledging that it is Israel that has been committing the sexual violent acts. When I tell you the world is turned against Israel, believe me, the world is turned against Israel. There's no coming back from this. None of it. That's why Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to go onto these podcasts, because he knows what's coming. The resolution said the IAGS recognized that since the horrific Hamas-led attack of October 7th, which itself constitutes international crimes, the government of Israel had engaged in systemic and widespread crimes against humanity, war crimes and genocide, including indiscriminate and deliberate attacks against the civilian and the civilian infrastructure, including hospitals, homes, and commercial buildings of Gaza. Now, I will issue a correction here. Again, this started before October 7th. They have been brutalizing Palestinians in Gaza long before October 7th, including mowing the lawn. Also, of course, this doesn't include the West Bank, what they've done to people there. So I do want to add that. Also, when they talk about international crimes, don't forget that international law does say that occupied people have the right to resist with arms. So we got to point that out. Goes on to say here, Melanie O'Brien, the IAGS president and professor of international law at the University of Western Australia, said the resolution was a definite statement from experts in the field of genocide studies that what is going on the ground in Gaza is genocide. Now, if you've been watching this show and others that have been covering this for the past 2 years, and for some even longer than that, you already knew that, but now it's on record. And it wasn't just The Guardian that reported this. Multiple news outlets reported this. There's no coming back from it. None whatsoever, ladies and gents. Now, why is this also important? There was a recent statement from Donald Trump. Again, I think Donald Trump is posturing here, but this statement from Donald Trump says something as well. Trump says ongoing war in Gaza is hurting Israel in the court of public opinion. Let's get into this a little bit here. Donald Trump said in an interview released Monday that Israel may be winning the Gaza war, but they're not winning the world of public relations. His comments echoed ones he made several times last year during the presidential campaign, but he has not repeated the argument since the returning of office in January. He has recently begun reiterating his beliefs that Israel needs to end the war quickly and told the Daily Caller they're going to have to get that war over with. It is hurting Israel. So, and this is why I say, he's basically posturing here, because Donald Trump saying that the war in Gaza is hurting Israel in the court of public opinion, it's almost, he's saying this as though he has nothing to do with it. Israel could not continue their slaughter of the Palestinian people if it's not for the weapons from the United States. So Donald Trump is complicit, but he's saying this to make it seem like this is all Israel and he's not involved. Think about that for a second, right? But that is him sending an alarm because he knows what people are saying, and including people who were Trump supporters also speaking out against this. And I want to show you the transition of Gaza. We're going to see what Gaza used to look like and what it looks like today. Check this out. So you see the difference? You see how we went from this to this? Yeah. Yeah. That's insane. That's insane. What has happened to Gaza. And if that happened anywhere here, we would all be, everyone would be up in arms about it. But there is hope. And I'm very excited about this. The Freedom Flotilla, they have launched probably the biggest mission that I've seen thus far, where 50 ships are on their way to Gaza. Aboard those ships include, once again, Greta Thunberg. And this time it appears actress Susan Sarandon is aboard one of those ships as well. Check this out, guys. Now, I want to see what Israel does here. I want to see how Israel stops this, because it's not one ship, it's 50 ships. They departed from Spain over the weekend.
So, Greta, we're about to leave. Obviously, we had a brief delay because of the weather yesterday. How are you feeling?
We are all feeling so relieved and excited to finally be embarking on this mission that we have been planning for day and night now for what feels like forever. And we are overwhelmed with the support from people all over the world. Yesterday, during the launch event, thousands of people filled the streets of Barcelona to show their support to the Palestinian people and to this mission. And this mission is an act of solidarity with Palestinians. The idea of sending dozens and dozens of boats came from Palestinians when we were talking with them last time during the Madeleine mission. So we are doing the bare minimum to uphold international law and to do our duty as citizens of the free world. And this is the biggest attempt to break the siege of Gaza ever. And we are mobilizing with people from all over the world. Now we're going to our first stop, which will be in Tunis, where many, many people are waiting to onboard dozens of more boats. And then we will be joined by dozens of more boats from Italy and then by Greece. And then we will be continuing towards Gaza.
All right. So it gives me, hope. It really does. It draws, of course, more attention to it. And I do have to, also say this. I am very surprised because I didn't know after October 7th, I didn't know if the protests would continue for as long as they did. I didn't know if these types of actions, the Freedom Flotilla would continue. It's continuing on. And we know what happened to Chris Smalls when he was aboard the Madeline and how he was treated by the IDF soldiers. But that did not deter this project from going forward. And that's the thing. They want to instill fear into you. They want you to be afraid to attempt to try to do something. That's why you see a lot of the censorship is coming around, right? Where they're trying to push forward legislation to basically punish people for saying certain things that are pro-Palestinian, right? You see they're trying all these different angles. Benjamin Netanyahu is doing podcast tours to try to, I guess, rebuild Israel's reputation. And I don't think that will ever happen. I think that Israel has basically dug their heels here and they're stuck. And this is what Israel will be remembered for. This is what they'll be remembered for. And that was their choice. That was their decision. And I just hope that, the Palestinian people in Gaza and the West Bank and Palestinian Americans here as well, I hope they see that the world is with you. The world is not standing with Israel. The polls show you people have turned against Israel. And I actually think the number of people who've turned against Israel is probably greater than what the poll is showing you. So, yeah, that gives me hope. But it's on the books now. It has now been decided by those genocide scholars that Israel is committing a genocide. And, I say there's no rest for the wicked. There really isn't. Benjamin Netanyahu, and not just Benjamin Netanyahu, but the Israeli government, the Israelis in Israel who support the genocide, and most of them do, they're going to continue to just push forward with this because they believe that they are entitled to the land, that the Palestinian people should not be there. Imagine someone coming to your house, taking your home and saying, "This is my home. You can't live here now." How would you feel? But it happens. And so, yeah, they're going to continue being evil. They're going to continue being wicked. Benjamin Netanyahu is going to continue, killing people because there is no rest for the wicked. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.